Welcome to another LFF review, my beautiful geekies. Today I'm reviewing Another Round, directed by Thomas Vinterbeg and written by Thomas Vinterbeg and Tobias Lindholm, and starring Mads Mikkelsen, a sort of reunion from 2012's The Hunt, one of my favorite movies of all time. So of course I was excited. So, let's talk about it. Four friends, all high school teachers, test out a theory that they will improve their lives personally and professionally by maintaining a constant level of alcohol in their blood system. This is supposedly a theory that actually exists and that they found out, and they want to write a paper about it and test this hypothesis in their lives. And looking at the trailer for this film before watching it, as a huge fan of The Hunt that I am, very different from what I expected for Vinterberg's next project. And watching the film, however, it certainly has its moments of levity, and it's really fun, it's really irreverent, it's kind of crazy, even goofy sometimes in the best way possible. But this film gets down and dirty. This film doesn't hold back. This is a really fun movie at times, but at others it is very raw. It is very grounded in realism. Because what Vinterberg actually does is an expose and an examination on the joys and the dangers of alcoholism, on substance abuse. And you see all the highs that these characters get with it. At first, they're just in their perfectly mundane and acceptable normal lives being teachers. They're kind of boring. They don't like at this point still giving classes to students who they know don't appreciate them or their teachings, but they still want to pass, and they demand way too much from these teachers for people who don't pay attention in class and don't give two shits about their education. But then once they start testing that hypothesis of the alcohol level on their blood, it starts to work out. They're more relaxed, they're more vibrant, they're more creative with the way they teach and communicate their lessons with their students. The students as well start to like them. There's a music teacher, there's a history teacher, there's a PE teacher. Everything just gets better for them. Their profession, their lives at home. Our main character played by Mads Mikkelsen, who I will get to in a bit about his performance because it's amazing. His relationship with his wife, which they are very apart because her job doesn't allow her a lot of time at home, and then they have different shifts. So when he gets home, she's getting out of home and whatnot, and it starts to get better. He starts to make plans with her for weekends and whatnot. It just goes up and up and up. And then, of course, things start to get out of control, and in that, tension emerges. And Vinterberg just builds and builds and builds and builds, because what his writing does is layer and ground these characters and the story and their actions and the consequences to said actions. There's a particular scene when they go on a night out, and throughout the film you have these black screens with just the little numbers at the center saying 0.3 going up to 0.4, 0.5, sometimes 0.6, and then it goes down again. But throughout the scene, as they are drinking, you have nothing. So you have the sense of the loss of control that these characters are going through. And then once the screen comes up again, you're just lost. You feel as lost as these characters are, and then it's when it starts to catch up to them and they start to be in way over their heads. And the film has this really nice balance of drama and levity, and finding the funny in the dramatic, but also the dramatic in the funny stuff. Because for instance, the PE teacher, he also coaches a soccer team for little kids, like I'm guessing 10 years old at most, and you see him coaching these kids, and he's drinking on the job, and he's actually doing much better. But then he's also the guy who has nobody at home. He has a dog, and that's it. But all of our characters are really fun, but they're relatable, because that's what Vinterberg finds in his stories and characters. He creates this very nice sense of community. It's not necessarily always a small town, a small little village, but it's this town where you feel everyone knows each other, and you can feel that they've been friends for 20 years. That's the chemistry that comes through the screen from our four main characters, who are led, of course, by Mads Mikkelsen playing Martin, who is irreverent in this film. He just lets loose. He disappears into this role so quickly. He can do the funny stuff, he can do dramatic, intense stuff, he can play drunk like he's constantly drunk. I mean, I don't know how the process of filmmaking went into this film, but I would bet they weren't actually drunk. But if you told me they were actually drunk, I would believe you. But the four of them, they are so good together, and also different. These characters aren't just copy pastes of each other, but at points you can not only see that this life weighs on them and it drains them of energy and just positivity and whatnot, but they actually care. They really care about their families and their students. So at the end of the day, it turns out it's not just for them to feel better about themselves. It's because they see the upside of this. But of course, to every upside, there's a downside, and everything needs a balance. I also found the ending of this film extremely cathartic. Again, finding that balance and joy in everything. There's good in the bad and bad in the good. It's one of the finest finale sequences I've seen in a movie in this entire year. However, I have a few issues, or rather, it's one issue that turns out it multiplies into several, because throughout the film, Mads Mikkelsen's Martin, he has this struggle with his wife. She's leaving when he gets home and vice versa, but then there's a confrontation at one point in the film, and that conflict and issue turns into something completely different that was never addressed up until that point. We never saw anything about it, and they start to argue about these different things that we cannot feel anything about because we never saw it. We cannot attach ourselves to something that was not in the movie up until that point. So I just felt it was kind of abrupt and it came out of the blue, and I just could not connect with that part of the story. And why it multiplies into several issues is because as soon as it is introduced, it starts to escalate and kind of comes into the spotlight more and more as the film starts to reach its climax. So I was never able to connect with that story, and because it starts to be more and more prominent as it goes, it just becomes a bigger issue than it is once it's introduced. Nevertheless, Another Round is a substantive look at substance abuse. Whether you're laughing with the characters in the funny moments or pitying them in the more dramatic moments, it is a very human movie and a joyfully cathartic experience come the end of it. I'm giving Another Round a B+. Now, are you excited for Another Round, my beautiful geekies? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for accompanying my LFF coverage, whether it's the reviews, the interviews. Stay tuned for more, because it's still not over, and I cannot wait to bring you all the rest of the reviews to you. And so until the next video, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe, because it really helps me and the channel out. But most importantly, above everything else, forever and always, love each other and love the movies.